All right, everybody, what's going on? Milwaukee coming at you again. And today's topic of discussion is none other than Star Wars Aftermath Life Debt by Chuck Wendig, Book 2 of the Aftermath trilogy. And boy, do I got a lot to say about this one. So let's get into it. As previously stated, Aftermath Life Debt is Book 2 of the Aftermath trilogy, taking place directly after Episode 6, and it's supposed to be, spilling all the beans, giving us all these clues leading in to Episode 7. But we'll see about that. Aftermath Life Debt is divided into 5 parts, and it's bookended by a prologue and an epilogue that take place on Jakku. Part 1 of the book finds us catching up with all the characters from the previous book. We join, Nora Wexley and her crew as they go on a mission to capture a Imperial target for the New Republic. And we catch up with Ray Sloan and Gallius Rax, the mysterious guy who was revealed in the previous book's epilogue, the guy who would be Emperor, as he sets up his Imperial Shadow Council and goes on to set the stage for what's to come with the rest of the book. Part 2 features all of our characters, gathering intel. Everybody's got their own missions. Leia tasks Nora and her crew with finding her husband, Han Solo. Whereas Ray Sloan is not too trusting, shall we say, of Gallius Rax and his Shadow Council. So she goes to Coruscant, digging into his past, trying to find out who he is and where he came from. Part 3 of the book is where Nora Wexley and her crew, they go off after they have gathered the intel and they try to link up with Han Solo. And, let's just say they do. Part 4 is the prison break part, where Nora and Han, they break out a lot of prisoners, including Chewbacca, who was captured in between Aftermath and Aftermath Life Debt, which set Han Solo off on this mission, to rescue Chewie and liberate Kashyyyk. And part 5 is where, the characters actually, liberate Kashyyyk, and there's a surprise attack on the capital of the New Republic. Oh no. And like I said, there's an epilogue that, pretty much confirms, Gallius' Rax's identity and who he is. Now that the brief recap is over, we could get into likes and dislikes. And I got a laundry list here, people, so let's strap in. I don't want to say that this book is a bait and switch, because it's not, but it really kind of felt like it while I was reading the book. Going into it, I knew it was going to be about the liberation of Kashyyyk, because it was set up in an interlude in the previous novel where Han Solo and Chewie get some information from a fellow smuggler that, hey, maybe now is the time that the Empire is in disarray to go on over to Kashyyyk and free Chewie's family and his people. So Han, it made it look like he was going to defy the New Republic, because he was out on a mission when he got this intel. And so he dropped everything and, went there. And so you're thinking going into this book, with it being called Life Debt, and of course Chewbacca having a life debt for Han Solo, you think you get an idea, where this book's going to go, but it really tries to, take the meandering path to get there. And it sort of feels like, Chuck had like a mandate here where he like had to hit certain points, like, the liberation of Kashyyyk and stuff like that, but they were just sort of like afterthoughts. It's like he did it because he had to do it, not because he necessarily wanted to do it. Like the story had to go there, but it just took like a meandering path to get there, and I don't know. And I don't want to say that it hurt the pacing, because the pacing is a little strange to me. It's sort of like written at like breakneck speed, yet also at a snail's pace. Like things just happen. Usually they're confined to like one chapter, the liberation of Kashyyyk, for instance, right? You skip ahead because there's a time jump to like the final battle, and you're like, wow, I really would have liked to have seen all this other stuff leading up to this moment, especially because there's stuff revealed where it's like, wow, could you have shown me this instead of just telling me? But like I said, it's like Chucky had to hit these things, and like he typed it all up on his computer, and he was like, "Job well done. Let me go treat myself to a Soylent." So yeah, but it's not all bad because like one of my likes here is Chuck's writing style. I know it's grown on me. I can't believe it. I'm sure you can't believe it. Uh, I know a lot of people like to clown on Chuck. I know all about the wibbly wobbly TIE fighters and the Hercules jerkily, all that stuff. But again, when the Chuck isms come up, I just can't help but get a chuckle out of it. It makes it for a fun read. So yeah, I'm reading this book and I'm like, damn, I'm enjoying this a little bit more than I thought I would. Not because of the plot, but because, these original characters, like my favorite character is probably Sinjir, Rath Velis, the Imperial Turncoat guy. And he gets like the best lines. Jas Amari, she shows, character growth during this book. Uh, I guess like the worst character is like Nora Wexley, and she's like the main character. It's like, get out of here, Nora. Also, there's a new character here, John Burrell, who's basically if you ever played Call of Duty, he's a Captain Price ripoff. And if you like Captain Price, you're going to like this guy, and I like Captain Price, so I felt like he was a great addition to the crew. He's a New Republic Special Forces soldier, so he helps round it out. He has the military expertise. And, he's just fun. On the page, he's fun. I can't explain it. Another thing that I like was, Leia gets a lot of page time in this book, as does Han Solo. Chewbacca not so much, but they only really rescue him at the end. And, it's just nice getting to spend time with these original trilogy characters. It's what people wanted out of this trilogy all along. And here we are. And, it's like a slice or whatever. You don't get to spend as much time with them as you would like. But when they're there, they're shining, they're stars. It's like you want to read more. Another thing that I enjoyed about this book that I continue to enjoy from the previous one is the interludes. It seems like they're really telling like a connected story here, and like one leads into the other. Like we got the Tatooine interludes are back with the character from The Mandalorian, played by Timothy Olyphant. And they really set up like a pirate crew in these interludes here that's going around the galaxy in a Star Destroyer. And I'm curious to see if they show back up or if they were like a one-off. So, yeah, it's just making the galaxy feel large with these interludes. What can I say? Gallius Rax for me is sort of a mixed bag. I kind of like the idea of the character, but it's a little strange. I'll get into it with some of my dislikes, but him setting up this Imperial Shadow Council, right, is pretty cool. Although, him and Sloane, they don't really get along, but we don't like Sloane over here, so we don't give a fuck. And, so seeing them pitted against each other, it was kind of interesting, but but really, the Imperial Shadow Council really only serves, at least in this book, as a means to tie into, again, like the sequel trilogy and bring in General Hux, or I should say General Hux's father from the sequel trilogy. General Hux, he's here, he's a kid, he's like a bastard child, but he doesn't get any page time. He gets rescued from the Imperial Academy off page by a bounty hunter, and, his father, takes a seat on the Imperial Shadow Council, and Gallius Rax is like, oh, that Brendel Hux, he's going to be important, so, there's your sequel trilogy tie-in, along with, of course, Temmin, Snap Wexley, gotta do it. Now, as for some of the things I disliked about the book, I'm just going to get right into it right off the bat. This book is very sexually charged. It's not Star Wars. It's HBO, if you know what I mean. It sort of caught me off guard. I feel like these books, while yes, they are part of the Star Wars adult line, they are ultimately still for children. It's going to be mostly children reading these books. And, early on in the book, there's a scene, the two characters of Jas Amari and John Burrell. They're having an argument, about the mission they just went on. Jas triple-crossed them. Shocker. And so John didn't take that too kindly. He's like, you should have told me the plan, Jas. my best Captain Price impression. And she was like, well, why? It has to be real. They'd be able to see through it. And so anyway, these characters, they get into a fist fight, right? You're like, oh, here we go. More drama for the sake of drama. But get this. This fist fight, this martial arts battle, turns into like a Kama Sutra type sex scene where they lock themselves in the bunk room. And, Temmin, he's got his ear pressed against the wall. He's like, guys, I don't think they're fighting in there anymore. And Nora Wexley, she's like, Temmin, get away from there. And it was just out of place. I couldn't believe what I was reading. They went from punching to fucking, like that one book written by David Duchovny's character in the show Californication, right? It's literally taking place right here on Star Wars. But it's not just those two getting some action in the book. Sinjir Rathvelis, the first openly gay character of Star Wars, well, he's got himself a little boy toy back on Chandrila. And you know it, as soon as they get back from their mission, he runs off to the bar, and we get a whole scene with them. And it is what it is. And, I mentioned earlier how Nora, I feel like, is the worst character. And, yeah, I stand by that. She sucks. But, who doesn't think she sucks? Wedge Antilles, because, Wedge is back. And, he's only a hero of the rebellion. He helped blow up the second Death Star along with Lando. He could probably have any Twi'lek in the galaxy he wanted. But no, he's raiding the old folks' home. And he's going after Nora Wexley. And it's just cringe. I don't know, guys. I just can't take Nora seriously. And I don't know what Wedge sees in her. I guess maybe he likes her piloting skills. But of course, it also puts, Temmin into weird space. Because he respects Wedge and, Nora's his mother. And we know that he goes on to be this X-Wing pilot, so... But yeah, everybody's, getting action in this book. And when they're not getting action, they're thinking about, oh no. You get a lot of POVs with Jash. She's like, oh no, I'm not falling for Jam. Am I? Oh no, I couldn't be. I'm too serious. I'm a bounty hunter. And then Jam's POV is like, yeah, I wouldn't mind another roll in the hay with that Jass. She's a lot to handle. And, you get a lot of like this pining stuff. Nora's like thinking about Wedge, and Wedge, he shows up with flowers for her, and it's just, come on, guys, is this Star Wars or is this Real Housewives of fucking Chandrila? Another thing that I disliked about the book is Chuck. I said it in the Aftermath review that Chuck has a tendency of writing his characters, from what I can tell, into a corner and having them solve the problem in like a stupid ass way, right? So the main crux of this book is Nora and her crew. They gotta go find Han Solo. But the only problem is nobody knows where Han Solo is because he's gone missing. And so the crew gathers intel from, wherever they get it, their contacts or whatever. And they track him down to like this planet, Irudiru, right? Now, a planet's pretty big. It's not as big as a galaxy, but it's still pretty big. So they're on the planet, and they're staking out this one mansion of a prison architect because they figure, oh, Han's going to be going after, the prison architect so he could help Chewie break out of prison. So we have this whole chapter, the characters are all like in their feelings about their relationships or whatever. And then all of a sudden things start going awry. A stampeding herd of animals starts running right towards the characters' positions. And well, it turns out, folks, that the reason that happened is because Han Solo found the characters, and the characters were going to, ruin Han's plan, so he sends the stampeding herd after them. And it's just like typical Chuck, right? Like, how is he going to have the characters find Han? He couldn't. So he had Han find the characters. I'm just like, but what could you do? At least they're together now, and we could move forward. Pretty convenient. Although I will say that this does lead to probably the best scene in the book. After Han is chastising the crew in the bar, he gets up on a huff and he leaves because he doesn't want nothing to do with them. He works alone. Except for when he works with Chewie and Luke and everybody else. But he works alone. So what happens? He walks out into the main part of the bar, and he gets knocked out by Mr. Bones. It's the funniest thing. You got to read it yourself if you even want to bother reading these books. Yeah, but Bones is like, he wasn't let in, that they're not looking for Han anymore. So when Han stumbles into him, he just knocks him out, and it's just a funny scene. Well, so anyway, they got Han, so they go to Kashyyyk to break Chewie out of prison. And so they go through this whole scene where, it's just action for the sake of action. Of course, Temmin saves the day with Mr. Bones, of course. And they free the prisoners, and, Han and Chewie, they're reunited, and then, oh, it's so great. And then, Nora, she's out there, supervising because she gets her ass handed to her in this scene. I tell you, Nora sucks. And you wouldn't believe, or would you, who was a prisoner in this prison the whole time? That's right. It was Nora's husband. Again, instead of Nora finding her husband finds Nora because he's wandering around the prison. He's all in a fugue state because he was like hooked up to these machines. And he's like, Nora, is that you? And of course, Temmin's like, Dad. And it's just so convenient that, these characters, they find each other. Nora joined a rebellion all those years ago to help find her husband. Well, we know that didn't happen. But here she just happens to stumble across him in this random prison on this random planet in the deepest, darkest part of Kashyyyk, way down on the ground. Too convenient, right? But, I feel like it's one of those bullet points that Chuck just had to hit. And so after this prison break, all the characters split up. Nora, Temmin, and her husband, they take the prisoners off Kashyyyk back to Chandrila. While Han, Chewie, Jas, Sinjir, Jam, and some other prisoners that they rescued, they decide to stay on Kashyyyk to help liberate it. And right here, there's like a time jump of like a couple months. And as a result of this time jump, right, oh, wouldn't you know it? The tension between Nora and Wedge and her husband Brenton, oh my God, it's at an all-time high. Who is she going to choose? Is she going to choose hero of the rebellion, Wedge Antilles? Or is she going to choose her long-lost husband that, let's be real, she didn't really care about in the first place? Because she said she was going to try to find him, but she didn't even bother. And of course, Temmin, he's so happy to have his dad back. But yet he looks up to Wedge as like almost a father figure, right? This romance, I'm telling you, I really disliked it. Another thing in the dislike column for me is the fact that Leia is already pregnant with Ben. I guess Ben was one of those Empire Liberation Day babies, conceived on Endor, Wicket looking in through the window. I don't know. I didn't realize that, Kylo Ren was that old in the movies, to be honest. I thought he was like maybe 20. Now I guess he's going to be a little bit older, right? So, I don't know. It was just weird. Like, everybody's pointing out that they're guessing that, Leia, she's so concerned about Han because she's secretly pregnant, and it turns out that she was. And Han knew about it because he told her that he would be home on time, as in, before the birth. But of course, Han wouldn't have made it if the crew didn't link up with him and all this stuff. And even then, the convenience of the liberation of Kashyyyk, like the final battle and how everything goes down, and the fact that this is a stupid point, but the way they get off Kashyyyk is Han and Chewie and everybody, they load up the cargo hold full of spiders, and they fly up to a Star Destroyer, and they fly into the hangar, and they unleash the spiders on all the Imperials. It's, it's like, how did you come up with this, Chuck? Spiders, of all things? Of all the alien races and all the creatures you could have in the Star Wars universe, your regular ass, albeit giant, spiders is what saves the day. Crazy. Also, I want to touch on the character of Yupe Tashu from the previous book, who was said to be an advisor to Emperor Palpatine. And I was like rolling my eyes at that. I was like, I'll get out of here with this. Well, in this book, he's still alive. He's a prisoner of the New Republic. And when Sinjir goes to get some information out of him, he goes to his holding cell and he finds that the walls are smeared with food waste. Now, food waste could be taken a number of ways. Like maybe he's just doodling with his ketchup or his mashed potatoes or whatever, or maybe it's shit, right? You eat the food, turns into waste, and he's like insane, so he's drawing on the walls with shit. And this is a guy that we're supposed to believe, advised Emperor Palpatine. This guy writing his shit in his cell. And not only that, but he was rescued in this book. And I guess he's going to go on to advise Gallius Rax in the next book. And it's just clown shoes. Like, what's going on with this character? We're supposed to take him serious? He's just smearing shit on the walls? He's insane? Because he's part of a Sith cult? Come on. I don't know. What do you guys think? I guess I want to take a moment here to touch on Gallius Rax himself. This character, he's made out to be like so intellectually superior and stuff. There's this whole plot line throughout the book where Rey Sloane, she doesn't trust him. He is positioning her as to be the new emperor. She's the Grand Admiral now of the Empire. But it's really him pulling her strings and she doesn't like it. So she's like, who is this guy? She goes off to Coruscant to meet with Mas Amedda, who is really like the de facto head of the Empire. And like this whole plot line just kind of gets dropped. And I'm wondering if it's going to come into play in the next book or if it was all for nothing. We find out that Rax is manipulating Rey via her aide, Adia, who Rax is banging behind Rey's back. So, and a lot of the plot contrivances of this book, it's all Rax. He's like, it's like he foresees everything or planned everything out. He wanted Han and everybody to go to that specific prison to break out those prisoners because he was going to use those prisoners on his attack on Chandrila in the climax of the book. So everything had to happen the way it happened, and it happened all the way that Rax foresaw. It's like, I don't know. He's almost like too good, and they want you to root for Sloane against this guy, but you just can't root for Sloane. She sucks. So you just gotta grin and bear it. I guess we'll see what happens in the third book. Hopefully it's worth it. And speaking of the climax of the book, the attack on Trangilla, where these prisoners that were rescued from the prison on Kashyyyk, they're there at like a parade and they try to assassinate Mon Mothma and stuff. But who cares about that, right? We're here to talk about the worst fist fight in the history of Star Wars. Rey Sloane versus Nora Wexley. This fight, these two characters, they're supposed to be like butting heads, One's on the New Republic side, one's on the Imperial side, and it's just... You're supposed to care. You're supposed to care about these characters, but you just don't. Like the other characters, like Jas and Jam and Sinjir, they all outshine, and even Rax, they all outshine these characters, and you just don't really care. And Nora, she's there. Rey Sloane, she's leaving the planet after the attack because she was set up by Rax to look like she was calling the shots on this attack on the Chancellor when she was invited to the planet by the Chancellor and like double crossed her or whatever. So she's trying to flee and she runs into Nora and they get into this fist fight and Nora has the opportunity. She has the opportunity to end all this, to take out Rey and just put an end to it. And she doesn't because she sucks. And then like Rey gets shot in the back and she falls off a bridge. And she just manages to live. Somehow she escapes the planet, the capital of the New Republic, that there's an assassination attempt on the Chancellor, and we're letting random ships leave orbit? I don't think so. And I guess that brings me to my biggest issue with the book, is that while I may like what happens, I'm not really a fan of how it's presented. Like, Han finding the characters instead of the characters finding Han. Ray Sloan, falling off the bridge after being shot in the back, and then, surviving. I liked the liberation of Kashyyyk. I didn't like that it was sort of limited to like a single chapter where everything just conveniently goes the hero's way. There's no real tension. There's a lot of moments where time passes and things happen, and it's like, man, it would have been nice to have been there to see these things instead of being told about them after the fact. Like, a major character loses an eye, and you're reading the book, and you're like, what the hell? When did this happen? Oh, off page. So there's a lot of stuff like that where, like I said, I don't know if Chuck had his mandates from Disney or like, you got to touch on this, you got to do this, you got to do this. But Chuck was like, no, I want to write my own characters. They're doing these things over here, but I'll just, sort of like funnel them down into where they ultimately got to go. Like, another thing I felt like out of place about the book was, why would Leia, with, being pregnant, she knows she's pregnant, Han knows she's pregnant, why wouldn't Leia call on Luke to go search for Han? Instead, she goes for, Norra Wexley and her crew. Yeah, I know Norra and her crew, they racked up, a bunch of victories, capturing high target Imperials, but still, where's Luke? The book says he's missing. I don't know. Just another one of those things. Hopefully he shows up in the next one. But I don't know. The best, and I guess weirdest way that I could describe this book to be is unsatisfactorily satisfying. Right? It's like, you got what you wanted, but it's not quite how you wanted it. But you got there in the end. But you didn't quite like it, but you did. It was enjoyable, but, it's just, I don't know, it's just as the kids today say, it's a mood. It's a vibe. Those two words, unsatisfactorily satisfying, probably don't even go together. You're probably looking up the definitions and going, what is this guy on about? But, that's just the state of confusion the book left me in. Like, there's a lot to like. And sure, maybe my dislike list was a little bit longer, but I was just kind of nitpicking, I guess. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I did enjoy this book better than the previous novel, Aftermath. Unfortunately, a lot of people say this is the high point of the trilogy, so I don't know if it's all downhill from here. I guess I'll find out in the next book, Empire's End. But to draw this one to a close, I'm going to give Star Wars Aftermath Life Debt by Chuck Wendig 4 out of 5. And I'm eager to see what happens next. Everybody's going to Jakku, and we all know from episode 7, the Battle of Jakku. I guess this might be it, but who knows? So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys thought. I'll see you next time.